listener production.
Hey there, Bension Siebert with your afternoon edition of The Briefing this Australia Day or Invasion Day, January 26, 2024. This is one of the few days in the calendar every year where we cannot avoid politics in our personal lives. There's really no avoiding making a decision. Do we go to the barbecue? What are we saying to the people that we're closest to if we do or we don't? These are far from new questions. Even in the early 1990s, when January 26 was finally settled as our national day at that time, people were already questioning it. During the research I did for this episode, I found a newspaper article from 1994. I would have been 2 years old when this was printed. The then Prime Minister Paul Keating was in there way back when, saying a change in the date was likely to be considered because of the need for reconciliation with First Nations Australians. Mr. Keating declined to be interviewed for this episode, but we figure you've probably heard more than enough from politicians and experts and commentators today. So instead, we've decided to bring you the story of 3 everyday Australians with extraordinary and powerful personal perspectives on this day and what it means. First, we'll hear from Yevheniia Cherkasova, who fled Ukraine with her now 16-year-old sister more than a year ago. They're making a new home, living on a humanitarian visa here in Australia. Yevheniia, thanks so much for joining us. You and your sister fled Ukraine during the war to come to Australia. How do you feel about Australia Day now, and what are you planning to do?
So it's our second Australia Day in Australia this year. It's going to be tomorrow. And I know it's a bit of a controversial topic for many people in Australia, but for us, for people who recently came here, I think it's pretty straightforward. We just want to be like a part of other Australian society of, do what our friends are doing. So we are invited to a barbecue tomorrow. Yeah, we just want to do what they do at this point, I guess.
What's your relationship with Australia? How do you relate to that national identity as well as your Ukrainian national identity?
I haven't found my national identity as Australian at this point yet, but I really hope I can do it someday, because it's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful people, beautiful mentality. This chilled, relaxed attitude. That's not what we used to. That's not how I grew up with. We were always in a hurry, in a rush to do whatever this is. And here it's very different. And I hope I can find this in myself someday. I also find it's beautiful how people can have be both Ukrainians and Australians at the same time,
I understand your sister is 16 and she goes to school here.
Yeah.
Do you and her feel differently about Australia Day or similarly?
I think she got adjusted a little bit easier than I am, because she obviously had more free time to spend with her friends and their families. I guess for her, it's more like something natural now. Probably how many of her, Aussie classmates are feeling like they're waiting for this day to go to somewhere with their families and everything. For me, it's still a bit different. What should I do? What should I wear? What should I bring to a table?
Mm-hmm, yeah. As you mentioned, Australia Day is controversial every year. What have you heard about the argument for and against changing the date of Australia Day? And is that something that you've thought of in the context of this situation?
Unfortunately, I don't know much about it, but I know it's a bit of sensitive for Aboriginal people, Aboriginal communities in Australia who find this date specifically is a bit more, insensitive to use it to celebrate something, while they find it as a day of grief at some point. And I think, in this perspective, it might be a good thing to maybe switch it to something more neutral to everyone, because as a multicultural society that we are in right now, that we came to, I think it would be nice to have everyone included in celebration. But again, for us, I don't have any personal attachment to 26. Mm-hmm. I think Australia definitely deserves something like this as a beautiful place as it is.
Yevheniia, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Yevheniia Cherkasova. Now let's go to Jeffrey Yello Simon-Ullungurra. He's a traditional owner on Manti-Upwi country on the Tiwi Islands just north of Darwin. So, Jeffrey, you grew up and spent a lot of your time in a remote community out on the Tiwi Islands just north of Darwin. How do people in your community relate to Australia Day? Is it celebrated or mourned or both or something else entirely?
I guess, look, firstly, I'd like to introduce myself as Yevheniia Cherkasova. My name is Yevheniia. It's my traditional name, and I come from the Manti-Upwi clan group and the Miardui tribe. So basically, look, I can only speak on my behalf as a Kiwi man. I remember when I was young, back on the Tiwi Islands, we did celebrate Australia Day by playing cricket and having a barbecue, all that good stuff that happens on the day. But also it gives us a time to reflect on our islands as a whole, but also our beautiful nation as well. And, just to reflect on the day to see how far we've come as a nation. So that's the kind of day it is on the Tiwis for myself, but I know it's like that for my immediate family, and I know other tribes and families have their own opinions. And it's something we all respect as well.
And what do you do on Australia Day now, and how do you personally feel about it?
Well, it's a kind of hard thing for me because my father's a non-Indigenous person. His family migrated to Australia. He met my mother, who's a full-blood Indigenous Tiwi person. However, my cultural conditioning growing up on the Tiwi Islands was very, very strong. I had hardly to do with my father's side of the family. So, I was fortunate enough to have that good upbringing on the islands, but I was exposed to the outside world and some of the talks and the political side of, Australia Day, and as well as other things as well too. So I'm like every other person. We receive information and then we process it, and then, we make of it what we do. So, but I think as a whole nation, there'll never be one true leader unless we accept our nation for what it is today. Recognize the past, embrace the future, but also live for the present, and we've still got a long way to go, but we've also come a long way as well.
Has your own view of Australia Day changed over time since you were growing up and I guess now?
I guess it more changed when I became an adult and I started to see things and travel around. I mean, I was a few years back, I was in Canberra during Australia Day, and it was good to see the youths and Australian flags getting shown and paraded around. Look, that's fine as well. I mean, we all have a voice. We'll have human rights, and I think it's a day to reflect personally on what would you like to do for Australia from home. Talk to your kids about colonisation, before colonisation. I mean, I feel for the people that are going to get their Australian citizenship on Australia Day. I mean, welcome to Australia. This is your home as well. But history tells us, we've still got a long way to go. So, yes, there were a lot of bad things, and we do need to acknowledge it because, the intergenerational trauma that the Indigenous people are facing today in Australia needs to be heard. I know it's heard, but I mean, look, it is what it is. I think if we start by changing our things at home and talking to our kids, hopefully the next generation come through, help us out a bit, and change it for the better.
Do you think, though, that we can move on while the date of the National Day is also the date that a lot of people consider to be the beginning of a genocide?
Yeah, look, changing the date, if that date reminds everyone in Australia about a certain event, I mean, it's common sense. Change the date, have it the next day, or have it the next month or something. I mean, not even have a day. Let's have it through Australia Day where we become a republic, not a part of the Commonwealth. I mean, we haven't signed a treaty, we haven't signed nothing with the Commonwealth yet. I mean, when are we going to become one country sitting by ourselves? Let's have a president instead of a prime minister that's been ruled by someone on another continent. So this is what we should be talking about. Are we a country? What are we? Are we just someone's little brother and then, we get told what to do? We come from the oldest continuous culture on the planet. Well, we should have that strength and that braveness to actually, sit down and have this talk about this date and have a talk about the past and have a national cleansing ceremony. That's the true meaning of every ceremony in the continent. Blackfellas understood that you can clean your body with soap and shampoo and all this stuff, but It cleanses the soul. You sing ancient songlines that open up the spirit world. We've got spirits. Human beings have got soul. Blackfellas have known how to cleanse that soul and clean it and, eliminate intergenerational trauma. There's a lot of Indigenous methods that can be used in terms of healing trauma, but also helping the environment. Let's just sit down and listen to each other. Let's not argue and fight anymore. Otherwise, we'll be doing the same thing next year.
Jeffrey Yello Simon-Ullungurra there. And finally, here's my chat with Michael Kheirallah, a leader in the Lebanese migrant community here in Naarm, Melbourne. So, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. What are you planning this Australia Day?
This year we have decided not to do any activities. Normally we'll have a yearly event on Australia Day on the 26th at Bentley Park, where we attract thousands of people every year from Lebanese and Arabic community. But this year we decided not to celebrate.
Can I just ask why it's felt important in the previous years in the Lebanese community here in Melbourne to celebrate Australia Day?
It was very important for us, a lot of migrants, not just for Lebanese, it's Arabic and other communities, very important for them to feel they are part of the society they're living in, and that's where they want to show that they are part of the Australian society. We celebrate Australian cultures, we celebrate Australian history, and they want to be seen as a part of the community because unfortunately sometimes you get some negative publicity in the media that some people they're not integrating into the mainstream society, and that's why there was a lot of effort to show the mainstream society that we're part of the Australian society, we are part of the Australian people, and we celebrate Australia Day.
And speaking with members of your community, what's different this year?
There was big shift actually after the votes. There was some misleading information during the campaign. A lot of people they misunderstood.
Sorry, you're talking about the voice referendum.
Yeah, the voice referendum. A lot of people they felt that if they vote yes, then the Aboriginal people they're going to take over their property or their land, and there was a lot of misinformation within the community, not just for the Lebanese community, also for the new migrants from countries like Iraq, Syria, and other parts of the world. And now, after the referendum is finished, they feel that, they've done something wrong. And now they feel that, they need to give a voice for Aboriginal people. And that's why probably this feeling within the community that a lot of people, they decided not to celebrate. And also another factor I didn't mention here, it's what's happened in the Middle East now is, because of the Gaza and what's happened in South Lebanon, a lot of people that don't feel in the mood to celebrate. So it's another factor.
Should there be an Australia Day at all, in your opinion?
No, I think it's very important to have an Australia Day to come together as a nation and celebrate what Australia has so far achieved in many, many areas. So I think it's very important for everyone. So, it should be a day not to include our Indigenous people and to include everyone, migrants and everyone who are in Australia. And it's very important for everyone.
Does that mean that you would like to see the date changed?
Yeah, it's my personal opinion. Yeah, we want to see some change. Maybe we celebrate different dates where we can have an inclusive for everyone to come and celebrate. Maybe the 26th is not seen by many people now as an Australia Day, so that's why we want. Maybe it's up to the government or the people of Australia to decide on a day where we all come together and celebrate what Australia has achieved so far.
Okay, Michael, well, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much.
That was Michael Kheirallah, a leader in the Lebanese community here in Naarm, Melbourne. And we've been hitting the streets asking what Australia Day means to people.
Australia Day is a day to celebrate Australia. It's a day for everybody.
National pride. I think it's a great time for everyone to come together.
I'm not sure what it means anymore.
It's a day off, let's be true. Everyone loves a day off.
I think Australia Day should be changed to another day just to respect my people.
I want to celebrate our country, but I don't know why we can't just change the date so it's comfortable for everyone. Beach, sausages, snags.
Same thing, basically, yeah.
Tell us what you're doing on Australia Day and how you feel about it. Search The Briefing Podcast on Instagram, hit follow and send us a DM. The link to the broadcast channel is there in the bio. That's all we have time for in this afternoon's briefing. Tune in tomorrow for the weekend briefing with Antoinette Lattouf. Antoinette, what do you have for us this week?
On the weekend briefing, I get to know Tina Rahimi, and I know you're just going to love getting to know her. You'll learn about her fascinating journey from a suburban makeup artist who took up boxing as a form of exercise and then very quickly became a bronze medal winning boxer at the Commonwealth Games. She's also the first Aussie Muslim boxer in a hijab who'll be competing at the Paris Olympics this year, and she's got her eyes set on gold.
Thanks, Antoinette. Look out for that one in your feed from tomorrow. The morning briefing will be back at 6 a.m. on Monday. I'm Bension Siebert. Catch you then.